All right. Welcome, everybody, to today's coaching session.
That's right. It is the first coaching session of June. We're going to be talking about the marketing campaign.
Yep.
We are going to talk about some good questions that I found on the private Facebook group and our answers to those really effective questions that you guys had asked that we are going to respond to. And then, if we have time, we'll do some Q&A for everybody, and we'll let you on your way.
Awesome. With that, let's get started, Chris.
All right, let's do this. So, Gary, I have a really big announcement to make. Oh, thank you for the drum roll. Yes, that's what I needed. I got a really big announcement to make.
Okay, what do we got?
Actually, to be honest with you, it's a medium announcement because I really don't want too many people to respond to this. So I've got a big announcement because we've never actually done this, but I don't want a lot of people to respond to it.
And to be honest with you, I have no clue what you're talking about. So,
well, I have it on my screen. I'm going to just pop it up for everybody to see. So we're actually this thing. Yes.
This thing.
I always like to throw you off while we're doing some kind of live presentation with everybody. It always,
you do it well.
It kind of makes me happy.
Yeah, to see me, see me flustered a little bit.
I'll be honest. It brings me a lot of joy. It's more than just happy. It actually brings me joy, which is more
causing Gary pain.
Lasting and resonant. It's one of those lasting things. So,
all right. So what's this announcement? Let's talk about this.
The last thing. The announcement that I have is that we're looking for a couple of clients who are interested in either advertising agency or marketing virtual assistant services done for them. We're exploring a new program that we'll offer where people can provide paperless agent approved marketing and methods. Right.
Yep. So
we're actually looking for 3 folks who would be interested in trying this out with us. So here's basically what we would do is for the 3 folks, we would do all of the marketing, really all of the marketing, right? Everything from the monthly campaigns that we share with everybody to even setting up Facebook pages and Facebook campaigns. Now, it's a service, so there's a fee associated with it, but we're running a test. Just curious to see what the appetite for that type of service would be. And so think of it as your paperless agent advertising agency services. So we're looking for 3 folks who would be interested in trying that out. If you are interested, just email Jim Pruitt, who's actually one of our members, who's going to be helping us run this test. Email Jim Pruitt. You can see his email on the screen there. It's jimpruitttampa@gmail.com. In fact, what I'm going to do, you're going to type that in for everybody.
Jim Pruitt, AMPA.
It's Tampa. Jim Pruitt, Tampa. Mm-hmm. I did that same thing. There's 3 T's in there. When he was
There's 3 T's.
I know. There's 3 T's.
Yeah, we're going to have to do something about that.
Yeah. So I said the same thing. I was like, Jim, is your email Jim Pruitt AMPA? Like, I don't know, I was thinking AMPM or something like that.
Jim Pruitt, Tampa.
Like Jim Pruitt all day, all night, you know what I'm saying? 24/7.
Okay.
AMPM.
So a lot of questions about the cost.
It's not inexpensive, but if it's a done for you service, email Jim if that's something you're interested in. And he'll get back to you. To be honest, a cost has not been figured out for the program because that's why it's a test.
Yeah, and I also think it also completely depends on the amount of help and the level of help that you need because let's be honest, there are some people who are newer who might not have a huge database and smaller
No,
business.
This is definitely for someone who already has the budget for an agency. I'm going to if I had to take a guess, you're currently doing at least $5 or $7 million a year. Would you agree with that assessment?
I think that's fair because before that time, you actually don't have the need for a virtual assistant or an advertising agency. And that's what's really interesting, Chris, is that in my career, when I hit 6 million to 7 million in production, I completely plateaued. And what I had to do at that moment is I had to take a step out of my business, spend several months seeking out and hiring my first assistant. And then I went up to 12 million very quickly. And then I plateaued again and I had to hire somebody else. So that's very perceptive of you is that, if you're doing between 5 and 7 million and you're kind of bumping up against that plateau, this might be right for you.
Or you might be doing more, but you're pulling your hair out. You might be doing more, but you're just literally grinding yourself out. So this would definitely be something for you guys, for you to check out.
Check it out. See if it's for you.
All right, that's the only announcement that I have, though. And so what I wanted to do next
And
year,
thank you so much for being here today. We're
we're just getting started now. What I wanted
up.
to do next, Gary, was to go into this month's June's marketing campaign that we provide you guys with this month. I wanted to dive into not only the topic and the different assets, but I also wanted to give just a few tactical tips, if we could today,
Let's do it.
to be able to help everybody implement this month's campaign. So this month's campaign, the theme for the campaign is the real estate relocation guide. Okay, so very timely for anyone who's thinking of moving. So whether they're buying,
which, by the way,
selling.
we are entering the highest relocation period of the entire year. Yep. So this is very time sensitive.
And don't necessarily think of having to relocate out of state. This is relocating from one residence to another, right? So and that's why the primary headline to this is 7 steps to a seamless move.
Love it.
So that's what the theme is. You can see on your screen what the PDF report looks like. There's the front page, there's the back page. Now remember, here's what I'm going to suggest. This is how you use these different resources. So with this PDF report, what I'm going to suggest that you do is you literally take a copy of this PDF report, okay? Take the cover email that's in the support file. So when you download this month's campaign, this cover email is in there. I want you to go through and identify your A+ contacts in your database. Gary, they're not going to have that many A+ contacts, will they?
No, and in fact, at any given time, I may have no more than 40 to 50 A+ clients, and that's where I typically cap it.
Right. So who would be an A+ client? Well, first off, it's anyone who you've done multiple transactions with, not just one, but multiple transactions with. It's also anyone who maybe they haven't worked with you as a client capacity, but anyone who sent you a referral, more than one referral in the past, right?
Yep.
Who else would you consider? I know because you also include within your personal network certain people who are still considered A+ clients. What are some of your additional criteria?
Well, number one, any of my very close friends, basically anybody that I could pick up the phone right now and call and say, "Hey, Chris, this is Gary. How's it going, bud?"
Someone you've got a deep enough relationship
to where I can ask them this. "Hey, Chris, I'm entering a really busy season, but I also wanted to make sure that I service any of your friends during this season as well. Can you share with me 3 names of people who you know who are thinking about real estate right now?"
So these are people that you're very comfortable with, that you've got a strong relationship with. If you were to pick them up at any given time and say, "Let's go grab coffee, let's go grab a drink, let's go grab dinner," they'd be like, "I'm in," right?
Yep.
All right. Yep. And you wouldn't hesitate to do so, probably because you like them enough to where you would say, "Let's go grab dinner, let's go do something," right?
Absolutely.
Perfect. So here's what I would suggest for your A+ clients, the people who are like that. Take this cover letter and that PDF report and literally use your personal email, not the marketing suite email that we provide, or even your automated email marketing provider if you're using another tool, but literally use your personal email. Customize the cover letter just a bit for these folks. Now you might find, Gary's got a larger database. You might find you only have a dozen of these folks. You might have a dozen, you might have 20. It is worth doing it for those folks. So customize the cover letter, attach the PDF report, and send it to those folks through your email. Now, I say that is only for your A+ clients, okay? So the next thing you're going to do is, first off, well, there's the blog post.
Yeah.
And actually, I think I have the previous month's blog posts in here, unfortunately. So I'm going to quickly skip on to the e-newsletter in the marketing suite. So you've got the blog post, but then there's the e-newsletter. Now, I would send out this version to everybody else, your A, B, and C's, basically everybody else in your database. You don't need to customize it and send an individual one out. Just use the newsletter tool and send it out to everybody else. Now, you might be using a tool like RealVolve. You might be using another CRM. Use this for that, or send out use that tool to send out to your A, B's, and C tool, whether you're using ours or the one that you already have. But send that to everybody other than your A+ clients. Why would we do that, Gary?
Well, number one is we need to make sure that absolutely everybody in your network, everybody in your database receives a communication from you via email every single month. So you've got to systematize this and get a process-oriented delivery system going. So you've got to do this absolutely every single month, because this is part of the omnipresent marketing, and it also provides the context for a conversation. this gives you the reason to pick up the phone,
which we're going to get into in just a moment here.
Yep.
So, but I believe that it's really important to make that distinction between everybody in your database versus your A-plus contacts, right?
Absolutely. Here's the thing about A-plus contacts is that, number one, A-plus contacts, they need more hand-holding. You need to nurture that even more. You invest more time into those relationships because you've already invested a ton of time into those relationships, and they need the personal touch. It's like anything. It's like, Chris, as you know, I travel a lot, and because of that, I have certain benefits with American Airlines, and so because of that, they send me different communications. I get upgraded before anybody else. And it's like that certain level of service that the airline is offering their top paying customers. This is exactly the same thing. You offer them additional benefits. You make sure that you call them first, and you make sure that you communicate with them via your personal email.
All right, so that was one of the tips. I don't think I've ever really explained how to use these tools for which parts of your database. And I really wanted to address that for everybody because you will get a better result. If you focus and segment your A-plus contacts out and provide that really customized, personalized follow-up and approach, you'll get a better result. But it's still really important to make sure that everybody in your database also receives the valuable communication of this type of content. Remember, whether they themselves are thinking of moving it's not exclusive to them just thinking of moving. It's also anyone that they might forward that onto to use as a referral tool. So when you email all your ABCs, the newsletter, well, all of those folks now, they might be thinking, they may remind them that you're the person that they want to work with, but they might also say, you know what, I know of someone who could benefit from this. And that's why we want to get it into their hands.
I have a question from Michelle.
Yes.
Michelle says, how do you combat unsubs from your email marketing? Unsubscribes. How do you combat that, Chris?
With valuable information.
Yes, don't send them crap.
Well, here's the thing. Also, don't view unsubs as a terribly bad thing, right? So here's the way you want to look at it, is how do you, fundamentally, what Michelle's referring to is people who receive your email and then say, I don't want to receive your emails anymore.
You know the first thing I do?
What's that?
I pick up the phone and I call them.
Yeah, you know what? If the person who unsubs is an A-plus contact, I'd call them. I mean, for sure. Hey, yo, what are you doing?
Yeah, and I actually, if it's anybody who's an A or a B, I'm picking up the phone and calling. And this is the script I would use, is I say, hey, Chris, this is Gary. I just got notified that you unsubscribed from my email notifications, which is totally fine. But if you don't mind me asking, what was it about the emails that made you think I don't want this anymore? Because I want to make sure that I'm providing an exceptional level of service to everybody else who receives the emails.
I'm sure they're shocked.
Of course they're shocked, because they're like, number one, oh my God, I've unsubscribed from everything, and I can't believe you called me. And number two, believe it or not, they may say, oh, well, you know, I wasn't reading them, or I'd love to see more of this. Then you say, great. You know what? Let me work on that. Would you mind if I send one to you directly, not through my email system, but to you directly? And quite often that repairs that unsub and they resubscribe.
Now, fundamentally, when you're putting together the content, which we are doing for you, is to be able to provide something that's useful and valuable. So one thing you may consider doing is, if you're using our marketing suite, you have the ability to customize the intro section, the top portion of the email that goes out. So the more customization, you know, one of the ways to enhance that newsletter at the top is maybe provide just a brief market update, right? Just put in there, hey guys, here's my newsletter for the month. It's 7 steps for a seamless move. You know, if you know of anyone who's thinking of moving, please forward this along to them. They might find benefit. By the way, here's what's going on in the Austin market, right? So anything that you can do to personalize, so people look at it and say, that is unique, that's personalized, that's customized, and focus on value, right? And so outside of that, you know, you can also follow up by actually contacting people if it's somebody that you know, and get the feedback from folks. I mean, really, if people tell you why, then you can modify and adjust to be able to send out things that they're going to want. So that's how I would combat that question. Moving along with the monthly marketing campaign, we've got the Facebook post. So share this, and then market it to your database.
Yes.
Don't necessarily boost it, but run an ad so that upload your database to Facebook, right? Very easy to do. You create a custom audience in Facebook advertising, upload your entire database up to Facebook, and then select that group to be able to see this advertisement, right? So just boost it to that specific group. You could spend $5, $10, and it'll be more than sufficient as long as you're only marketing it to people who are in your database.
So I have a question. How long should you run this ad to your database?
A week.
Okay.
You know, I mean, $1 a day for 5 days. $2 a day for 5 days.
What would you say if I said, what if I run this for 30 days to my database, because it's going to take me 30 days to call the people in my database?
That's fine too.
Okay.
You know, I mean, because then you are. That's a good point, Gary, because I was assuming that you would be doing other forms of marketing. If Facebook is the only other form of marketing that you're going to do, and it's one of the tools that you're really heavily relying on to achieve that omnipresent marketing,
Yep.
showing up in all places at all times with your client base, then yes, $1 a day for 30 days because you're not doing any other stuff.
Got it. Okay.
Now, one of the things you might be doing is posting on Instagram. So here's the Instagram post. In the Instagram post, again, you can. I don't think I would actually boost this post because you're going to achieve that through Facebook. And if you do it right on Facebook, Facebook will also display this in Instagram for you. So I wouldn't necessarily boost it in Instagram, but I would post it on Instagram as well. One of the ways that you can increase the engagement of the post is make sure that you use we provide the comments to include on the post. And if anybody likes or comments or responds to it, make sure you interact in the same place with them. Interact on Instagram if they interact with you. So pay attention to it to see if anybody's responding.
Yeah.
You know, one of the big things that happens is people really haven't taken the time, however, to get their contacts that they know and themselves connected on Instagram. So what's a big thing, a big step? You know, Gary, you recommend every month just kind of going through the database, your database, and looking at each individual contact record and asking, is this the right information? Do they still live here? Am I connected to them on their social media profiles?
Right. Yeah, this is a standard practice that you should be doing every single month. I know a lot of people who take like the month of December and they work on their database for an entire month. And I'm like, working on your database is like tending your garden. It should be done all the time. Otherwise, at the end of the year, you've got all these weeds and it looks like a monster thing to go in and clean up. Plus, Chris, what happens if you're going through the database and you realize, oh gosh, I don't have that one person's email address. And then you get it and they're like, oh, I'm so glad you called. We were actually thinking about selling our house. Yeah. I mean, it's really critical to have that accurate information in your database. So when you're contacting them, when you're sending out these email newsletters, when you're contacting them on Instagram and Facebook, that you have the accurate information. Don't wait until the end of the year. This is something that we actually teach you to incorporate into your monthly marketing and prospecting.
So for Instagram, for example, if you would want to you would go for the Instagram, look up your clients and request a follow. And then if they let you follow them, there's a good chance that they'll follow you back, especially if you say, hey, this is who I am.
Yep.
Okay. The next thing, following upon, we mentioned sending out the newsletter to everybody else, to everybody in your database, is to follow up with a phone call. Now, whether you talk to them live or whether you leave a voicemail, you want to do at least one of those two things. Don't just call and hang up. But we also provide you guys with a phone script. Again, really important that this is a very big part of the omnipresent marketing. So omnipresent marketing is not just limited to seeing an email or seeing you on social media. So omnipresent marketing, in order to jump outside of the dimension of just being online, we have to do some additional activities. So one form of omnipresent marketing is a sign in the yard, right? Or even open house signs, because it transcends what's just being online versus being in their real physical reality of, I'm driving down the road and I see the Krath and Scott Homes open house sign on the street. So that's an additional impression that takes place that's could be even more valuable or really complementary if you're also doing that online marketing. Well, here's another mode of communication. It's telephone, right? So is video. So is interacting on social media versus just posting on social media. But this is a really important one to do because when it comes to that omnipresent marketing, when people hear your voice, let's say it was a voicemail. Let's say if they hear your voice, they're getting a deeper connection to us. Now, if you get to talk to them, that's the most prized connection.
Absolutely, it is, right? Because having that conversation, it always builds that relationship deeper. And so, Chris, when I think of omnipresent marketing, you know who I think nails it? And you're going to slap me for saying that. Donald Trump.
Oh my goodness.
Because he is everywhere all at once. It's like he has an advertising agency behind him, putting him out in front of everything. Now, can it be offensive? Sure, but his omnipresent marketing is working. So, okay, just bringing some humor in there.
I think there's like a Netflix documentary or something like that. There's some show about that, stuff he does. So, but yes, the phone, being able to reach out via phone, you might even also supplement that with reaching out via text message. Because you want, when we talk about omnipresent marketing, which is when our clients, they see us, they hear us, they notice our presence online, offline, constantly in the peripheral vision of their life, that's how we always are top of mind.
Yes.
Right. So why is that important? Well, at some point in time, they're going to have a conversation that looks like this. Hey, we're thinking of moving. Either them or somebody they know is going to ask that question or make that statement. We're thinking of moving. And we always want to make sure that they think of us. And the only way that happens is through the omnipresent marketing. We're not entitled to be remembered at that conversation unless we do this activity, no matter how great the service that we've provided. Unfortunately, we can take great care of them, but 3, 4, 5 years goes on and they've forgotten because they live life.
So here's a story, Chris. Friend of mine that somehow is not in my database.
What?
Past client and friend of mine, like, I don't know how, but they're not in my database. So they haven't been receiving any of my emails.
Somebody sabotaged us.
And so I got a message from him 2 weeks ago. I told you that I went and showed a duplex, right? It was him. And he goes, hey, Garrett, it's Matt. Molly and I are thinking about investing and didn't know if you had a realtor you could refer us to or if you're still in the real estate game. And I'm like, oh, okay. How did I miss this one? So it still happens and it's going to happen. But the reality is that had he been receiving that omnipresent marketing, he wouldn't have had to ask.
Right. No, you're just lucky that
I'm so happy he called.
That was, and when, unfortunately, that doesn't happen as often, like them remembering it happens a percentage of the time. If I had to guess, I'd say it happens probably 25% of the time without staying in touch. It happens probably 25% of the time, but we're missing on so much more.
Exactly.
So
a huge missed opportunity there.
So to download the campaign, just go to the bit.ly link that you see at the top of your screen there. You can also copy and paste it there, and it'll allow you to download the entire marketing pack for the entire campaign that we just previewed with you guys. So download that, get started with it, and we look forward to hearing your success. Now, I wanted to shift gears and do some live Q&A, Gary, because I was going through the private Facebook group earlier this week. I guess it was towards the end of last week, earlier this week. And, oftentimes I like to go through there in preparation for one of our coaching sessions, just so I can see what everyone's talking about, what people are concerned about, maybe some good questions that we can answer.
And there's some good stuff in there.
There's always really good stuff. I mean, I love going in there. One of the things I always love going in there and seeing is just the number of referrals being exchanged there. That always gets me excited for everybody because, it's just nice to know that that's happening in our database and across all of our clients. But I went through and I picked a couple of questions that I thought would be helpful for everybody to know. And I'm just going to, I actually popped took a screenshot of the questions.
Right.
So I'm going to read the question.
All right.
I also took the liberty of sharing some of the comments because there's also great feedback, not just from Gary and I, but there's always great feedback from our community on these things. So I'm going to read through some of the feedback.
Okay.
And then and Gary and I have prepared responses for these questions as well. And what we're going to try and do is make these questions not just specific to this individual, but rather make these questions broad enough to where it could apply to really any circumstance or in most circumstances. So the first one comes from Jay. And Jay says, I'm a mostly successful agent in San Antonio, right down the street from us.
Yep.
But unfortunately, They're moving to Kansas City.
Or maybe fortunately.
Maybe fortunately. I was just saying because of the distance moving away from us. But he's moving to Kansas City in 2 months or so. I now have my license in KC and I have joined the MLS. What are the top 3 things you would suggest I do right now to get a head start on the KC market? Advertising strategies, social media strategies, phones, etc. Now, here's what some of the advice was for Jay. Alicia says, learn the local market. ASAP Go preview at least 5 properties per day. Then FISBO's expired. Make me move. Door knock. You've got this. Love the encouragement. Karen says, join the company with the largest market share. The company whose signs are everywhere. You have 0 street cred there, so you're going to have to lean on your company's reputation until you develop a flock of raving fans. And number 2, do as many open houses as you can in your target price range or the one you're most comfortable working. And then 3, get social with real people doing stuff you like, love, and or believe in. You've got to expand your social circle and fast.
Meetups are a huge opportunity for you as a realtor to meet other people who have similar interests. So huge opportunity there.
Chip Borgel says send out cards, send to build personal relationships in your location. Susan says you have the best coach. Well, thank you, Susan. You have the best coaches in the business. Read and do everything they suggest, especially the Instagram FB stuff or Facebook stuff. Mary had some great response, a great response here. She said, who's your target market? Answering this question is your first step. Is it millennials? If so, do lots of Facebook and Instagram ads.
She said a bazillion.
Bazillion. Is your market boomers and their parents? If so, leave your posters, flyers, and brochures at senior centers and visit retirement homes and to introduce yourself. In Southern California, the brokerage you belong to is totally irrelevant to the consumer, but I don't know how the market is in the Midwest. Preview every available home. And are you going to, I'm not sure what that is. Are you licensed in both states? Get familiar with where the boundaries are. We used to live there. So really good advice there. Gary, you had really good thoughts here. Now, here's how I wanted to expand this particular question.
Okay.
Is that here's what I found. This is relevant not just if you're moving, but 2 other scenarios. You could be relatively new to real estate, or you could be trying to break into a new market.
Absolutely.
In your existing market, higher price points, different parts of town, or you might be just trying to kickstart your business. I think is also the response that you had for some of the things you were thinking of. Really apply it at all these different levels, because here's what happens. A lot of times we forget what the fundamentals are.
Yes.
We forget. And Jay, you're mostly, you say you're successful. I bet you're very successful in San Antonio, and you probably forget what makes you successful. So, Gary, you had some really good ideas on what to do there, and then I got a few other things I was going to throw in. So,
okay,
what would you do if you were moving markets or trying to break into a new market?
So, several different things here. Okay. So, number 1 is this takes a little bit of time, and it's probably the most expensive. But could also be one of the fastest ways to penetrate a new market after you get a relationship. So number 1 is go research. Well, first off, number 1, research and find a great brokerage. You need to have a great brokerage who is going to support you in all of this. And if you can find a broker or another realtor in that brokerage who has excess leads and excess clients, go partner with them and take those leads and pay them a 50-50 split on all of those leads.
Well, I would imagine the biggest hurdle that you have when you're going from one location to another, this could even be relevant for someone who farms one neighborhood but wants to start farming in a new neighborhood.
You don't know anybody.
Right, is that you just don't know anybody in those areas. And more importantly, they don't know you. And so the thing you have to do quickest, and I think this was mentioned in whose response was it? Karen's response, is that you need to know people in the market. You have to start building a database, and you have to start building it quick. Without a database of people locally, you're going to struggle. So partnering with other folks seems very smart. Now, you were talking about, Gary, like, don't stop selling in your current market, though, right?
Yeah, so that's another thing. Well, back to partnering with somebody is I used to do this quite a bit, is I would hire newer agents or hire agents who just relocated to Austin because I had excess clients that I couldn't handle. And so I would take all of those leads and I would train the agent and give them my leads for a 50% commission split. And in fact, we had one gentleman who relocated here from Chicago, and that's how he was able to build his database and his business, is because he was partnering with me.
How long did that take for that? person to really get up and running, would you say?
Oh, he started selling within 2 months.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
So
he had his first closing within 2 months.
So because he was working with you
Yeah.
and you had surplus, it was like, just go work with this person. And you know what the thing is, he's building relationships, getting and able to get business. I think that's one of the biggest struggles, is that you want to be able to transact as quickly as you possibly can.
You absolutely do. And but you also need to know, like, it's going to take a little bit of time. But if you find somebody who has excess clients, then you can work with them. In addition to that, Jay, I highly recommend keep your license here in Texas. Keep your email marketing going out to everybody in your San Antonio market. And shoot, if the sales price warrants it and it's a high enough sales price, fly back to San Antonio and work with that client. If it's not, find another agent in your brokerage and go ahead and tell them, hey, you know what? You're going to be part of the Jay Schweringen team, and I am going to refer all of my clients to you for a 50-50 split or something like that. So keep working the previous market.
Gotcha.
And start working on the new market. Now, if you're really industrious and want to dive in, you can buy another realtor's business. So you can do a lot of research and find out who's been in the business the longest, how successful are they, and are they getting to a point to where they want to retire? Because their asset is their database. So go meet with them. Tell them that you'd love to mentor under them until they're ready to sell their business. You can go ahead and start taking clients from them right now and then buy their business from them. And the way you can buy their business is either with a lump sum, a down payment, or a down payment and an ongoing referral fee. So like maybe year one, it's a 50% split on all the business. Year two, it's 35. Year three, it's 25, but you can buy that business from somebody else. So that's another thing you can do. And then last but not least, I would highly recommend that if you have not done this yet, go through our local market mastery course, because that will help you, number one, identify the market that you want to work on. Number two, learn how to get in there and start working immediately, gain market knowledge, and start building relationships with the realtors who serve that area and also the homeowners. So that would be my last.
Gary, everything you're talking about makes sense if you're trying to, let's say someone is in our market here and they've kind of plateaued. I mean, those are all growth strategies that you could employ. Let's say, we're in the Westlake area, but let's say someone wanted to start working the Cedar Park area or whatever, another part of Austin, Tarrytown area, is to partner up, just like you said, with someone who's got a surplus. And so, initially the split might not be as good. So maybe you got to go to a higher price point, right? And kind of work that business so that it still makes sense for everybody. But all of those strategies make sense regardless of whether you're moving out of state or just wanting to expand. So,
and real quick, Michelle asked, what's a reasonable price to pay for a retiring realtor's business? I honestly don't know.
It really depends on the quality of the database, the number of transactions, the price point. I mean, there's
It also depends on how involved they're going to retain or to be in the business as they phase out, because there's got to be a phase out. They can't just disappear.
Well, no, and here's the other thing, Gary. Here's the thing where you may not approach it as though you wanted to buy their business, because most real estate agents, brokers are not thinking about what they have as saleable. Right. So rather the approach might initially be, let's do a partnership. Let me take on more of this business. Let me help you close more. And so that 50-50 split or whatever it is, and make it more of a gradual transition to ownership. You know what I mean?
That's a really great point.
So that you don't run out with the lump sum payment. One of the things I was just going to point out, Gary, and you already alluded to this with the local market master reference, was that, most clients know more about their markets than we do. What I mean?
And do you know why that is?
Because they're the client.
Yes. I shared this on another webinar recently, Chris. As you know, I recently got a new car. I walked in and I was shocked to know that I knew more about that car I wanted to purchase than the salesperson did.
Well, and it doesn't surprise me, because you were moving into it. You wanted to buy that car. You're interested in that one model.
And where's all of this knowledge and information now?
Online.
It's all online. It's readily available. I research like crazy. And as the salesperson, he has a whole fleet of homes that he has to sell, so he doesn't know everything about that. So,
and I think this was, I don't know if it was Karen or one of the other folks, maybe Angela was saying, or Mary was saying that, get to know the market. And so, Jay, you got to know that market better than everybody else, which won't be hard for you to do. I mean, the fact of the matter is most of us don't really take the steps necessary to have that product knowledge of what's for sale in this market, what have we visited that home. So spend some time developing your local market knowledge. The other thing, and we already talked about this, is the need for a database. Is you got to build a database. It's not so much about having the repeat business. In this case, it's about getting that referred business, right? So as you build up your relationships in that market, you're going to not only develop business from those folks, but you will also develop referred relationships. If you're implementing the same strategies that we suggest that you do, you're just going to have to go meet people mode out there.
All right, real quick. Jim Pruitt is online. Jim says the typical prices for a profession-based business are 1 to 2 times gross revenue. So thank you, Jim. By the way, this is the Jim Pruitt who is offering his services. Yep. So Jim, I don't know if you were here earlier. We shared with everybody your email address, so you may receive a few emails from people wanting some help.
Yep. Another thing is when you get there is another alternative in growing your database. This is for Jay. Another alternative to growing your database is get to know business professionals, service providers, business owners, build up your professional network there in the area.
And this is absolutely something you can do before you move markets.
Yep. So, hey, I'm moving here. And then one of the things is develop relationships with people so that you can have a script similar to this. Now, this one I borrowed from our ASAP course, which is assuming you already had a relationship. So you would have to modify this script a little bit. But developing, if you're not moving to another place where you don't know, but this would apply to you if you are just trying to develop your business, your network of professionals here locally, is you schedule meetings with business owners, with service professionals, maybe even people you're already referring. And you say, hey, this is Chris, and I'm with Creth and Scott Homes, or I'm with the Paperless Agent. How's business going? Interesting. Well, the reason for this call is to see if I can refer you to my clients. The service you provide is exceptional. In my line of work, clients need referrals to services you provide. Can we grab a coffee or meet in the next week so I can learn more about your business and how to best refer you? Now, granted, if you're moving to a new location, you're not going to know that the service they provide is exceptional, but you could get referrals to that business and say, I've heard your business is exceptional.
Yeah.
So again, just getting in there and meeting as many people as you possibly can to build up that database so that you can start interacting with the market. So that was the first question that we wanted to answer.
Awesome.
And then the next question I wanted to answer came from Leah. Leah says, have I missed the details about privacy policies? I've gotten so many updates in my inbox that I'm wondering if it's something we should be updating ourselves. And actually, Stefan said it's due to the implementation of GDPR, which is the General Data Protection Regulation by the European Union. And there's actually a good link to it provided by our friends over at at Realtor Magazine. Can I share this easily with everybody?
Yeah, go to your,
I'm gonna do that.
Right there.
And then, all right, so there's a good link to an article from Realtor Magazine on how to comply with the new security rules. Let's see, we actually had some fun stuff in there. Magdalena was saying, hey, we've updated our privacy policy, GDPR, explaining that was GDPR. So Leah was asking a question, do we need to add something to our agent ID sites? Mary was saying, I think the admin, us, for the agent ID sites need to do something. And ultimately, here's what it comes down to, guys, is that, and it comes right out of that article that Stefan shared, which is the General Data Protection Regulation does not apply to the way real estate professionals target their marketing to American residents. But given the direction of data privacy and security, it is advised practitioners to begin making efforts to comply right away. So
yeah, because what's probably going to happen?
The United States will likely and Canada will likely adopt very similar rules and regulations. Yep. So yeah, you don't have to worry about it right now, but in the future. So we've gotten our lawyers to go check out to figure out what kind of text and what kind of copy we need to add on our agent ID sites. So stay tuned for that. But don't worry, there's nothing unless you're currently serving European customers. Now, if you currently, let's say you work the international markets, you live in a resort town and you are marketing to the EU, then you do need to be concerned about this, right?
Absolutely.
I know, but that's not the most folks, though.
No.
All right. So next question comes from Brian. Brian said, my wife is really well versed in social media and much better at keeping up appearances than I. We are considering having her quit her day job and come on as my assistant. Any recommendations on how to make this transition? I think I need 3 to 6 months of her wages stored, as I expect it to take that long before I see some return on her efforts.
Before you go any further, I want to give a recommendation here.
Oh, yeah.
And it's this. If you are going to work with your spouse or your partner, make sure you have very, very, very clearly defined roles and responsibilities for what each of you is going to do. Because if there is overlap, it can cause a little bit of friction.
Mm.
By the way, I'm not talking about just life partners. I'm talking business partners.
Mm-hmm.
Chris and I at Paperless Agent have very clearly defined roles and responsibilities. In fact, I'm not allowed to talk to our team. I'm banned from speaking to our team. But it's with anything in business, have very clearly defined roles and responsibilities before you do anything.
Well, and here's the thing, that applies even if you weren't going to have your spouse come on board or your partner come on board, even if you're just hiring an assistant.
Absolutely.
It is very important for their role and the specific activities. Now, a lot of times we get general with roles. We need to get specific with the activities on what that person is going to do. Because it really comes down to, all right, something needs to get done or something does, something happens where it needs to be addressed. Who's the person that is supposed to deal with this, and in which way are they going to deal with it? Now, here's the thing. I wanted to expand this particular question to not just hiring and working with my spouse,
right,
but like, hey, hiring an assistant.
Yes, this is not just about the spouse. This is about hiring anyone.
And I think one of the first things to note is that you don't have to look at it as an all or nothing situation. You know what I mean? Like when in hiring an assistant, look at it. You don't like, we work with a lot of, we have employees and we have contractors. The cases where we have contractors is where there's not enough work to warrant a full-time position, right? And in other cases it does, but it just makes more sense for that person to be a contractor. But we have a lot of things that we like to get done in our business that, we need it done. We need it done maybe every week, but it's not 40 hours a week. Right? It's maybe 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week. In those cases, contractors make more sense. Now, I wanted to just look at some of the advice that was given, and then Gary and I have got a lot of things to share with you as well, Brian. So Dave says, I'm going to follow this because I'm thinking about hiring my son to do social media under my supervision and direction. He would pay him a wage, but basically he's thinking about his son. Carrie is saying, speaking as a daughter working for her mom in a similar situation, I am working on a commission-based basis at first. I get a percentage of our commission at closing. Seems to be working for us so far. I'm only working part-time, she notes, just managing websites and FB and Instagram. So, I think one of the first things that with Brian, and most likely I would jump to this conclusion myself and in my own thoughts and working with folks is, the first response is always hiring somebody full-time. But really the question is, how many hours are necessary to get up and running? Because the fear, of course, is all of a sudden, and Brian asked the question, do I need 3 months? Is it going to take 3 months? Is it going to 6 months? How long is it going to take for it to get up and running? Because I need to have the cash to be able to support that transition. And whether it's your spouse or whether you're hiring an assistant, same thing. I need the cash to be able to pay that person what their salary is for that period of time until I see a result, right? And so what's some other advice that was given here? Maybe part-time. Oh, Greg said.
This is what you and I were talking about is like right now, keep the day job, work part-time nights and weekends. This is not a full-time gig yet.
Well, and here's the thing. What I would focus on, Brian, is making sure the things that an assistant would do in this capacity, your wife or somebody else, is to make sure the things are really the right things to produce the outcome. So it is very easy to hire somebody to do something that won't actually lift business.
Right.
I've had this experience myself many times, right? The thinking is, well, it'll free me up to do this, or the thinking is maybe this will happen and more business will happen. And I've made oftentimes the mistake to make that investment only to find out, gosh, it didn't work the way I was hoping it was going to work out. So one of the important things you got to consider is to make sure that whatever you brought this up, Gary, about the roles, responsibilities, are income producing activities.
Yes. So there are 3 different types of activities that are performed in a business. There are expense producing activities, there's income producing activities, and then there's profit producing activities. So you need to focus on the profit and the income.
Yep. And so what I was going to suggest is, first, to Gary's point, maybe just have her start evenings and weekends so you don't have to give up the day job. But you might say, well, there's not enough time. But maybe just if she just focuses on the right things that do produce that result, well, then that might ease the burden on the amount of money that you're going to spend. So even if she's going to put 10 hours a week, let's say, right, and still keep the day job. Well, if the 10 hours a week are the right activities, it should produce some kind of result for you, in which case you would say, oh, this is doable, right? It won't be as scary a jump because you'll already have a little initial lift in income, and you can see, and you'll be able to quickly assess, all right, she's spending 20 hours a week doing this. Here she's spending 20 hours a week doing this, or 10 hours a week doing this. If I go to 20, now here's what I could expect the result to be, right?
One last tip I would give is, and this is just on the personal side, is that when work is done,
work be done.
Work be done. No business talk at the dinner table. Absolutely none. Especially if you have children, do not drag them into your business and be in your business 24/7.
You know, my wife and I have often contemplated working together in some kind of capacity. And
yet she is so wise that she keeps saying no.
She's like, no way I want to work for you. That's ridiculous. I don't want you as my boss. Why would I switch roles?
Wow.
But in seriousness, so the question is, of course, making sure that she's doing income producing activities. What is that? Now, the reason why I zero in on there is because social media can easily become a thing that does either produces a result or maybe not hopefully the result that you really want being produced. I personally wouldn't start with the social media role, just social media exclusive. I would expand that role to be marketing. So what kind of marketing should she be doing, or which kind of marketing should you guys be doing that your assistant or your spouse or your partner can do for you? Well, one of the things is to implement our Move Up program, the Move Up Buyer program, where you research your database, find people living in the area for more than 3 years, produce a CMA, send that out to them, and then follow up with them, right? And so I think it was, I don't remember who it was in here who said it. Mary might have said it, which was, Brian, making sure that that your prospecting increases, right? So you're going to have her do marketing stuff. He or she do marketing stuff. You're going to want to make sure that your prospecting opportunities increase. Well, if you're implementing the Move Up Homebuyer program, and I think we've done a coaching session on that recently, but ultimately you're finding people who've been in the database more than 3 years, producing a CMA, and then sending an email that looks like this. It says, hi, Chris, I'm reviewing my records. It looks like you've been in your home for over 4 years. Isn't it amazing how time flies? Out of curiosity, I took the liberty of running a market analysis on your home to see its current estimated value. You can see that analysis attached. Did you know your home's value has increased by approximately 20% in the last 4 years? That's an $80,000 increase. Historically, people move every several years as we go through life changes. If you're thinking of moving in the next 18 months, I wanted to make sure you knew about my Move Up Buyer program. When you sell your home with me and buy another within 90 days, I'll give you a 1% rebate on the purchase of your next home. Are you curious for what's for sale? I'd like you to have access to my customized home search tools. Send me a quick message. Thank you. And so again, that's just one type of campaign. Another type of campaign that will produce results is to start expanding the marketing and really improve the quality of the marketing and prospecting that you do for expires and FSBOs. So you can put together a My Home Didn't Sell Now What report. First you got to get access to the data for those expires and FSBOs, but put together a My Home Didn't Sell Now What report. And I know we've probably talked about this before. I did want to give you guys the link to that template really quickly, but don't just stop here though. So get your My Home Didn't Sell Now What report. You can download a copy of a template so you can create one for yourselves, but then include some really high impact direct response marketing. So one of the things to attach, if you're going to mail this or do a drop off, for example, you would take this report, right? Couple that with an effective direct response letter. I've written one here that you guys can use. It's the tale of two. You'll have to customize this one. It's the tale of two Austin area homes. Brian, you'll have to customize it for where you're at. And this is using a traditional direct response approach. I'll just read the first paragraph. On a typical sunny summer day last year, two Austin area homes were listed for sale by two different owners. Both homes were of similar size and style, and they were both beautifully remodeled with the latest design trends. Both homeowners were proud of their homes and hopeful about getting good offers in a timely manner, allowing them to move on to the next stage of life. Fast forward 1 year, both homes are still very similar. They are still the same size, style, and remodeled with the latest design trends, but there's one difference. One home has the same owner, while the other one has a new family living in it because it sold within several weeks of being listed for sale. And then it goes on from that. And so, you take a direct response letter like this, couple it with the My Home Didn't Sell Now What report. If you want to download a copy of that, here's a link. It's just bit.ly/tail-sample. Gary's going to plug that in for you guys. But we're not done yet, right? So that just makes it direct response. So it's speaking directly to that expired listing or potentially for sale by owner. And then if you can get this for the expired listings, if you can utilize your MLS, take a printout of their home and show them like, hey, this is what's going to happen. This is what happened. If it was an expired listing, hey, here's what's happened. Dear Gary, there's a reason why your home didn't sell, either lack of promotion, preparation, or poor pricing strategy. Email or text me if you want to discuss what your options are, right? So you couple this whole package together.
Yep.
And that's a direct response package that would be effective. So if she's doing those types of activities, he or she's doing those types of activities, then that is going to produce a result. It gives you more people to prospect to and is highly customized marketing.
Absolutely. So what Chris is talking about is active. Because one thing we talk about is, Chris, a lot of people look at marketing as the end all be all, but we need to look at marketing is great, but it has to be coupled with prospecting, because marketing is more passive and prospecting, what Chris just explained, is extremely active. Mm-hmm. So Brian, if you can have her work on the active prospecting with you in a marketing role, that absolutely could help.
Now, you might look at this and say, I want all that stuff done, but maybe I should hire an assistant for that. And there are people that you could hire as an assistant. So definitely spend some time thinking through what is it that will be done to increase the prospecting opportunities and increase those opportunities to talk to. I think this is relevant for anyone who's thinking of hiring an assistant, because there's two different approaches to it. We're usually solving two different problems. Mm-hmm. One is where they just have so much going on and they need some help with operational stuff, right? So I just need some help to help me stay in touch with people, and I just need help.
Sure.
Other people, it's going to be, I need help specifically in this marketing capacity, mm-hmm. right? So one is either just going to strictly save you time, which is going to have one level of cost, right? Or marketing, which is going to produce business, which would also usually have a higher level of cost, right? So think about that if you're thinking about hiring an assistant, or heck, if some of those of you are looking at the agency service, email Jim. But definitely, I thought this was a good one to cover for
Absolutely.
Everybody.
Love that
Gary,
one.
now when did you said that, when did you hire your first assistant?
So I hired my first assistant when I started closing $6 million.
Okay.
That's not true. I hired my first part-time assistant when I hit 3 million, because what I saw as a business student was that I'm going to need to be able to scale this operation very quickly, and I don't want to have to wait until I hit a brick wall and then take time away from the business in order to recruit and hire somebody. So what I did is I took the financial hit early and invested in an assistant before I could really afford her.
What kind of stuff was the assistant doing for you?
The assistant was doing things that I needed her to free me up. Number one, she was doing all of my listing marketing. She was doing my contract to close. She was scheduling my appointments with my clients. So she was doing that, because what I saw is, for me to be able to scale my business, is I needed to spend more time with my clients, either in person or on the phone, and prospect. And if I'm sitting there doing paperwork, which I knew back in the day with the files, my paperwork took me twice as long as a detail-oriented individual. That was not my skill set. My skill set is getting on the phone and offering value to people who want the value. And so I saw the opportunity to find somebody who was really inexpensive, to be able to work on the things that I was not very good at, that freed me up. But here's the thing, is I was very purposeful about taking that time and reinvesting my time into the active prospecting and lead generation and conversion activities that I knew worked. I did not take that time and say, whoo, they're doing that, I'm going to go to the lake. You know, it was not that. It was
Well, particularly in that role, because new business was not being generated from that person's activity.
no.
It was clearly freeing up your time.
Yes, absolutely. And so,
And you were taking a hit. So it's not like it was an expense that you could say, all right, that's cool. You needed to make more money as a result of taking that hit, right?
yep.
Got it. All right. Then last question. Does anybody have any?
We got several questions here.
I'll do the last one. Is from John. John was asking the question. I have a personal page, a personal Facebook page. I manage. I have a personal page on Facebook, and I manage my team's page. My team consists of my father, another agent, and myself. My dad doesn't know anything. My father doesn't know anything about Facebook, so I have full control of the page along with the other agent that's on our team. I think we have like 200 followers. It's very small. Well, my question is, should I create my own business page for myself? The other agent on our team has one, but I read somewhere that too many Facebook pages can have a negative impact on followers. Normally what I do is just use my personal page to post real estate stuff for listings. Will creating my own page muddy the waters? This is not a yes or no type response. So one of the first things you want to consider is, what are your long-term plans? You happen to be on a team, but the team happens to be your father. So what's the long-term arrangement there? Because that Facebook business page for the team is technically an asset. Now you look at it and say there's only 200 followers and so on and so forth. And I agree. That's the real power behind Facebook is not a business page and its followers and fans. The real power behind Facebook business page is the advertising platform that exists under there. So the question I would have is, what you need to have a business page to run the advertising. Whether you maintain that page extensively doesn't matter as long as you're running the advertising. Now, you might not be at that level where you're doing the Facebook marketing as an advertising tool, and maybe you're currently just posting on there. If that's the case, I think your current situation is probably just fine. When you're ready to do actual advertising, so that when you're marketing your listings, you're marketing it to people who are in the market, and vastly expand the number of people who are seeing it than just people in your personal network or people who are on your page, you have to use the Facebook advertising platform. Of course, we've done a lot of training sessions on different forms of Facebook advertising campaigns. I would start there. Get some learning. Get some information and training, which you already have access to in our training library. Just go to the resources, look at previous trainings and coaching sessions that we've done on the topic of Facebook ads. And then after you've watched one or two of those, then make the assessment on what you want to do and what you want to pursue. Because you really need to dive into the circumstance, but you don't have enough knowledge yet to make a good decision. So get some education that's going to help you make a better decision. I can't really diagnose what to do there based on the information that's available, John. And for that matter, I always try to really push people in the direction of, don't view Facebook as posting and having people see it. View Facebook as an advertising platform. That's how Facebook is building it. That's how they want us as businesses to use it. So the more we can comply with its intended use, the more successful we're going to be. And that's all the questions I have. So
we've got some here.
Cool.
Meredith says, where do I even start to look for a reliable marketing assistant? Will you show Jim's email address up there?
Yeah.
So Meredith, if you are in a position where you're like, I need marketing help, you can email Jim Pruitt. Let me just post it in here as well.
Remember, we're only looking for 3 clients there, though. So you make sure you're producing at a higher level. Everyone else, here's what I suggest is put together a concise
job description
that includes in detail what you want that person to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think we might have created resources. Jordan, do we have some kind of resource on that? Jordan?
She's working on.
Do we have sorry guys, I'm going to check with Jordan, who's over here, if we have a resource. I thought we did. Do we have some kind of job description template for marketing assistants or something like that?
Maybe. Let me check.
We might have something, but
I don't think for a marketing assistant, maybe for a virtual assistant.
So, but the thing you really want to have is a very detailed list of what that person is going to do, and then you can post that. You can post that on Elance. We've found some of our contractors off of what used to be called Elance. It's now called Upwork, I think.
Yeah, it's
Upwork.com. The key there is being very specific about what you want that person to do, and then to scrutinize what that person's going to do.
And in addition to that, you can Google real estate virtual assistant.
Yes.
If you Google that, there are real estate virtual assistant organizations that have them remote, and you can just go on and contract them. I have a friend who's done that. She works up in the Northeast, and she's working with a great VA team, and that's how she found them.
Gotcha.
And CJ says, do you have a suggestion for an assistant agreement? This is where it totally depends which state you live in, but you will want, and here's what I would recommend is start out with an independent contractor agreement.
Mhm.
If you can pay them on 1099 basis, that's probably going to be your most affordable and best route to go. But you will need a legal form that is an independent contractor agreement to have with them that will have non-competes, et cetera, with that, so that they don't steal your database and go do something with it. But you need an attorney to draft that for you.
If they're using tools like Upwork, I think that's kind of
Upwork is part of the process.
We'll
right?
include all of that for you. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lisa says, what about the opposite of Jay's question? How do I find good agents to refer my surplus of leads to? My brokerage is in a different area, Houston, and I am working the far northwest areas. Lisa, we have had, I think, 2 agents on this call say that they're happy to help. I just messaged you their email addresses. In addition to that, this is one of the reasons that our private Facebook group is so powerful. You can go on there and say, hey, this is where I work. I need agents to refer business to in this area. And then what you'll need to do is set up calls, meet with them, interview them, find out how they take care of clients, because you want to make sure that they're going to take care of your clients exactly the same way that you do.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of that is, one, leverage the community that you're a part of, which is the Paperless Agent community. You can access folks via the private Facebook group. But ultimately, it's going to come down to developing relationships with people, right, that you're going to trust to refer, so that you can also be comfortable setting some form of expectation. You're going to want to work with someone who already provides a high level of service to their clients, someone who's got good ratings and good reviews, and then also make sure you communicate your expectations, which is fair, to be able to say, hey, I'm referring this, here's how I would like to have this person taken care of, and go from there. But ultimately, you will want to talk to folks. Our hiring process consists of 3 different phases. I think it's 3. The first thing that I always do after running a job, or meeting people or getting referred to somebody, is the first thing we always do is do a telephone interview. I always like to do a telephone interview before I do an in-person interview. The reason
why is that, Chris?
Because we are swayed quite easily. As someone who, when you're in a hiring position, whether you're hiring an assistant, whether you're hiring a contractor, whether you're hiring someone that you're going to refer business, here is the most common mistake that we make as someone looking to find a solution to a problem that we have, is we project what we want onto the capabilities of the individual, meaning that because of what I want to be done and urgency is high, I will see what a person has potential to do, not what they're able to do, right? And so the only way for me to not make that mistake is for me to have a process designed to prevent me from projecting my hopes and expectations on that person's abilities. Because I've made the mistake too many times where I hired somebody based on what I thought they could do, not what they were able to do. And it takes a while to find out. I mean, it could take literally 6 months to a year before you find out that you made a mistake in hiring somebody.
And that is a very costly mistake.
So the first thing I always do is a telephone interview, because I want to be able to listen to a person's voice. I want to be able to ask them pre-planned questions. I want to get to know who they are without being affected by personal presence. I want to know just from like, all right, here they are. How do they sound on the phone? How well do they handle these questions? How honest and all of these things do they sound to me over the phone? How well do they, handle the conflict of the questions that I'm going to ask them? And then after that's done, we actually, for some of our, then I like, when I can, I like to have them do a test just to see, like, hey, write me an email, or write me an email responding to a lead, right? Because I want to see, like, okay, they can talk, can they write? What's the quality of their writing and their written communication? I need to understand that if we're going to be talking to our clients and interacting with our clients. So I'd like to be able to have some form of email, written communication. Then after we do that, then we schedule the interview, the first interview. The first interview I never trust, right? The first interview is always one of those things where I already know I'm going to have an impression based on the first few seconds on whether I like to hire that person or not. Rather, what I need to do is not hire the person on the spot. Like the problem that we make is that, man, that person seemed like a go-getter. That person seemed real awesome. That person seemed like they knew what they're talking about. Let's hire them. We make that mistake, and it's only because they interviewed well. Well, they need to interview a second time. They always have to interview a second time. And when they interview the second time, that's where we really start. You don't even, the thing is, whatever glossy sheen they had on the first interview will likely be reduced or gone by the second interview. And I will shift the second interview. The first interview is usually about competence and their abilities. The second interview is what I want to know about them as an individual, because I'm going to be listening for things like this. I want to understand what their character is like. I want to understand their ability to persevere or persist in difficult circumstances. I want to understand what kind of decisions they're going to make when I'm not there in different circumstances. And I can only do that based on some kind of assessment on their character. Impossible to get in a first. It's impossible to judge someone's character on a phone. Impossible to judge it on the first interview. You can only begin to start to crack into that by getting to know who they are and learning some of their background story in that second interview.
Well, he just dropped some golden nuggets on you right there.
So, and then I'll feel comfortable.
Oh, you're not done?
No, and then I'll feel comfortable making an offer of some sorts.
All right. Next question. Jane says, if we upload the custom audience to Facebook, do we have to do it for Instagram too? Absolutely not, because you're going to do your Instagram ads from the Facebook platform.
Yep, once and done.
So happy I was able to answer a Facebook question. Okay, next question. This is an interesting one. Clarissa says, with Facebook's data issues, is it really wise to upload our database to Facebook? Number one, Clarissa, Facebook already knows all of the people in your database anyway. But I mean, what are your thoughts there?
Well, we have to be specific when we talk about things like this. So when we say data issues, what do we mean? What do we mean? Well, a third-party provider taking advantage of the things that Facebook was making available doesn't affect us, right? Facebook, it's not like people were hacking Facebook. People weren't hacking Facebook.
Facebook was selling the data that they had.
Facebook was giving them data that they had. They were not giving them our database or our list of folks. They were giving a lot of the other data that they had available.
And what they're talking about is like behavioral data.
Yes. So, the thing is, if not Facebook, what? Because a lot of times what happens, and I'm guilty of this, but we have to be very vigilant, is that if we stop doing something, we must pick it up with something else. And it must be equally effective. So if you're not going to use Facebook for marketing, the only other tool that pales in comparison is that you will have to learn how to use Google AdWords. Now, it tends to be a more expensive platform, and the learning curve is a little bit steeper. We've done a little bit of training on there. I'm not going to stop marketing on Facebook. I market on both Facebook and Google AdWords because that's where the people are. You can't say, well, I'm going to stop marketing on Facebook and now I'm going to go to Pinterest. There's just not enough people on Pinterest, Twitter, or any of the other places. The only two places that have all of the people are Facebook and Google. So those are the places that you want to be at. You eliminate Facebook, make sure you've got a good alternative. But the learning curve is pretty steep. But don't do nothing. You don't go from marketing to the most pervasive media platform to nothing. That's very dangerous.
Very well.
And Facebook, one more thing. Facebook has learned an awful lot, from, I feel in my assessment of the whole situation is that they handled it pretty well. They made some mistakes and they understand the mistakes. And now they have a better understanding of their responsibility to the public. And we're seeing those changes played out now. So I wouldn't stop marketing on Facebook.
All right. Next, Meredith says, what are your thoughts on doing Facebook retargeting along with ads? Can I do that myself easily if it's worth it?
You should check out in our Facebook Marketing for Real Estate program, Module 6, I think it is. But yeah, retargeting is a very effective strategy. Here's one of the ways that I like to use it, specifically in a real estate context, is let's say somebody visits your website, is to remarket to them listings and open houses and your website in general, to use your search feature if you have an IDX website, and keep inviting them back. One of the biggest mistakes we make with online lead generation is that we get people to our website once and then we never invite them back. And that's just not how consumer behavior works online. Consumer behavior is that you go to a website once, that's a little bit of trust built. And then you really have to come back several times before enough trust is built, before I'm willing to, save that property, create an account, request more information. And that's what, if you look at the big home search portals and sites, they're really good at getting people to come back. we never take the time to invite people to come back. It's like they came once and that's it, once and done. So we really I think retargeting is a very effective strategy. We use it all the time. It's a big part of our marketing strategy, and I would encourage you to start by at least re-inviting people to your website once they visit it.
All right. Rory says, can you create custom audience with names, address, and city, but no email address? My understanding is you have to have either email address or their phone number.
Yeah, I think you need to have at least those. I know you can upload address and name, and it might reconcile. I've never actually done it myself. Phone number and email are the most effective. Hopefully, yeah.
Okay.
And you know what? You should have that data. If they're your client or in your database, you should have that. You should call them or find out what it is if you don't have it. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you need their phone number if they're going to be in your phone number, and at least the email address if they're in your database.
You got it. Sam says, is the likely to move feature or target still valid when targeting in Facebook?
It still is. It's going away here pretty soon. I think it's June, or no, October is when it's going to go away. And as soon as we understand what the viable alternative is, we'll let everybody know. I would continue to use it. Don't worry. Don't freak out. Oh, that feature's going away.
Facebook, they're working on something there.
Well, here's the other thing. It's quite, there are some really good tools in Facebook that might even be more effective than the likely to move. And I'll give you an example. So there's this feature within Facebook. I've never talked about it, I don't think, but I use it all the time. It's called lookalike audiences. And so you can create a lookalike. You can have Facebook create a lookalike audience. This was part of that whole thing that people were like, oh, what are they doing? It's all of the companies want to make sure that when we receive marketing, we want that message and we want that information. We don't want to be marketed stuff that we don't care about. So Facebook has this really cool feature called lookalike audiences. So I can upload our database and then create an audience that looks alike the database. And then you can base it off of percentage, like 1% match, 2% match, 3% match, and then market that. So you could even just, take your database, upload that lookalike audience and market to those. And that's likely what the interim solution is until some more targeting features are available. Another thing that we're going to do more training on is in Google Ads, is they now have really easy audience selection tools in Google AdWords. So they have.
I was wondering when they were going to make it easier to advertise.
No, it's so much easier. And now, Facebook's gotten a little bit more complex, and Google AdWords has gotten a little bit less complex, and so they're really about the same. But here's one of the audience. They have moving soon audience on Google AdWords, and then you can actually base it off of the services that they would be interested in, real estate versus actual like a moving service. So lots of great stuff there also available that we'll definitely cover in a future training session.
Michelle says, when you're doing open houses and collect information on visitors, is it better to collect email or phone numbers? Yes.
Both,
absolutely. And in fact, I use my iPad, and there's a slew. Sorry, hold on. So what I do is I'll take my iPad and I will set it up at the entrance to the house, and I'll use something like Open Home Pro, or there's a slew of Open Home capturing softwares that you can use, and you just request that they sign in. And the way you do it is say, oh, hey, welcome, come on in. Hey, by the way, the homeowner has requested that everybody who enters their home simply signs in and lets them know that they were here. So if you would, take a second and do that for me. And then a lot of the different services will actually have follow-up email sequences that will automatically email, hey, thank you. By the way, here's more information. So, and in fact, we've done open home training for the coaching program. But you can search in our resource library for that. But yes, open houses, very
a tool like that makes it a heck of a lot easier too, as opposed to having them fill out a form or even fill out, having to interact. It's like people are.
And Sam says, and people's handwriting sucks. Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, it's so much easier to have people interact with technology than paper anyway. They're much more likely to do that. So, and they're much more likely to give you accurate information than writing it. Okay. Next, Lily says, do you suggest hosting open houses or spending more money on Zillow, Realtor.com, etc.? They're totally different animals. Absolutely different animals.
Yeah, I would say It really depends on what your objective is and what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to own a local market, you want to be a particular neighborhood go-to person, you got to do open houses. You want your sign in the yards leading up to that open house as many weekends as possible. And you don't want generic open house signs. Gary drops 20 signs with our branding on it around that open house in that area. But spending more money with the other folks, that's more comparable to say, should I spend more money on market, with advertising on Facebook or Google AdWords? That's really more akin to, should I spend more money on Zillow, Realtor.com, or those places? Open houses, totally different strategy. One of the great things about open house, though, you have to take a step back. What are you trying to accomplish? Are you just trying to get more business? Because I don't know if spending more money is always the thing to do.
Well, and if you're not doing the fundamentals right now, so this is one thing that I harp on all the time, is you must become the master of your database. You have got to master networking, staying in touch, omnipresence with your database first before you do anything else. And if you're just like grasping and saying, oh, you know what, I'm going to try open houses. Well, that didn't work. I'm going to try Facebook ads, and that didn't work. I'm going to try Zillow or Realtor.com, and that didn't work. Then it's the whole strategy is off. You must have the strategy to master one thing and then add something back on top.
Well, and to your point, because, and I think it was to Jim's point earlier, we are in a service-based business. Service-based businesses, they hinge on a form of connection. Doesn't mean you have to be best friends with every person that you work with, but in a service-based business, it is far more easy to get referrals, to get business from people if they know you or know of you, or you have a relationship with them. Yeah. And so that first starts with effective marketing and follow-up and relationship building with the database, and which is why we gave you the whole monthly digital campaign leading up to at the first section of this call. Is if you're not doing that repeatedly every single month, you have to start there. Now, a lot of times what happens is people will do it 1 month, like, I didn't get any business from it. You got to remember, real estate is a 90-day cycle business. It's going to, with the work you do today, you're not going to see the results for another 60 to 90 days. You're going, whatever you're doing right now is going to happen 60, 90 days from now. And I don't even mean like the closing is going to happen 60 to 90 days. You start prospecting, you start effective work right now, you are not going to get really good, consistent leads 60 to 90 days from now. People will like the idea of buying leads because they do get some leads fast, but we all know the conversion rate on those, right?
Well, conversion rate is low, and then also conversion time. You're looking at, anywhere between 12 to 18 months before they're actually ready to buy or sell a house. And go on to all the forums right now. There's huge battles between all of these online portals of trying to sell leads, and there's a lot of conversation that the quality of the leads continue to depreciate. So do your homework before you spend any money there. Okay. Sherry says, is there a way to see who has visited your Facebook page? I receive page updates that tell me how many new views I have, but I don't know how to capture who it was to invite them back.
So you can't see who it was, but you can run ads to people who engaged with your page or with your posts. And it's one of the custom audience features. It's too advanced for me just to. You go to audiences. You're going to create an audience around engagement. Maybe Google, Facebook, custom audience engagement. But you can retarget people who've interacted with your Facebook page or your posts, and they've engaged with your page to some level. Maybe they watched a video as another form of engagement. So, yes, you can market to those people. No, you can't get their names. That's the whole general data protection regulation stuff. They don't want to give you the names. But they can allow us to remarket to those people.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Cool. And with that, everybody, we are out of time. I do want to thank everybody for being here, our entire support team, and our coaching club manager, Jordan Terry. Thank you, Jordan. Woo, woo. And wanted to thank you, Chris, for putting all of this together. These were great questions. I hope you all found this valuable. And if you have additional questions, or if there were questions that we missed and weren't able to upload or able to view them or answer them, go to the private Facebook group. It's the Paperless Agent Coaching Club. Go there, ask the questions there, engage with everybody there, it's an enormous opportunity to engage with this great community that we have working with us.
Cool. Well, thank you, Gary, and we'll see you guys on the next coaching session in 2 Wednesdays, and then we'll see you in the private Facebook group. Take care.
Did you want to share your screen there? Because I took over and we're on.
Oh, man. Let's see here.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Take care.